This is part 2. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now this is actually part 2 of my birthday book haul. I received a lot of books from my friends and also from myself and from publishers. So I decided to just do a haul to show you guys the books that I purchased and the books that I received. So right now, currently happening in America right now and also around the world, because there's a lot of protests right now to show support and solidarity for Black Lives Matter. But I'm going to be leaving links down below for those who have some money to spare to donate to a lot of different funds and a lot of different causes and to help support the communities that need it the most. But as always, keep yourself educated, keep learning, and keep listening. So the next 3 books that I picked up were actually all pre-orders. So I pre-ordered these books like way back, like maybe in February 2020 when they had like a sale going on at Chapters Indigo. So I'm very excited to finally receive them in the mail. But like literally at times I forget that I pre-ordered something, and then all of a sudden I get an email from Chapters telling me that your book is coming, it's on along the way. And I'm like, no way, but which book? I don't know, I don't get it. So the first pre-order that I want to show you is actually Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen this book or you have already read it yourselves, because this book actually came out like last month, and this one I read way back like in maybe like February or like beginning of March. So it was like way before like the publication date. I had an ARC that I received from Berkeley Romance, and I was so excited to read it, and I was absolutely blown away by how beautiful this book was. I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It has to be like top tier level book that I read this year so far, and literally this book sticks with me a lot. So this book follows actually 2 writers who are going through like a writer's block. So we have a female character named January, and if I remember correctly, she actually writes a lot of romance novels, and she's like known to write romance novels. Then we have Augustus, which is like a person that writes a lot of like literary fiction slash thriller slash horror slash suspense. So he's like more on like the serious side of writing, and they just so happen to book a cottage or like a cabin that's like right next to each other. So they see each other through like the kitchen all the time, and they have like this enemies to lovers romance going on, and they actually challenge each other to write their novels and to force each other to write their novels and to hold their word counts accountable. And I just love this book so much. It was so cute, and it was so emotional towards like the half of it. Like I didn't even realize it was going to be emotional. So it was a beautiful surprise to like learn about the backgrounds of January, and also learning about the backgrounds of Augustus, and I can't recommend this book enough. So the next book that I have to show you is another pre-ordered, like I said before, and it's by Lauren Ho. It's called Last Tang Standing, and I've seen this book nowhere. I've seen this book nowhere on Instagram, nowhere. And the only reason why I knew about this book because of my diligence towards searching for new books in catalogs from publishers. So this one's actually published under Putnam Books, which is Penguin Random House. So I was just browsing through their publisher catalogs, and I saw this book, and I was like, guys, like I have to buy it because it is an Asian like slash romance novel slash women's fiction novel, and hello, I need representation in my books. So I put a pre-order in. So this book follows a character named Andrea, and this book is actually described as like Crazy Rich Asians mixed with Bridget Jones' Diary, and that is like my thing. Like I love those 2 things together. I love Bridget Jones. I rewatch that movie like every single year because I relate to Bridget Jones so much, and I love Crazy Rich Asians because that movie was just perfection. I didn't read the book yet, but like I'm sure if I read the book it'll be both perfection. So anyways, Andrea is about to become like partner in her law firm. She's like a really great lawyer. She makes a lot of money, and she has her great friends that take her to like Singapore's like, you know, like wealthy rich nightclubs and like things like that, and she has a lot of fun. And she's also the last like standing Tang that is single, and she's okay with that until she meets like a wealthy entrepreneur called Eric Dang, and Eric and her has sparks flies, and everything seems to be going perfect in her life except for the fact that someone at her law firm is trying to sabotage her from trying to get her partnership in the law firm. So this is like kind of like the story of her trying to like navigate her relationships and also navigate her work and learning how to balance her life and work so that she is the winner overall and she is actually happy. I just seen Bree Hill start reading this on her Instagram, so I'm excited to read this very soon so that we can have a discussion of this book. So the next book that I have to show you guys is called The Marriage Game by Sarah Desai, and now this is like an Indian like romance that I am bound to love. It's an enemies to lovers romance. It follows a character named Layla, and it also follows a male character named Sam. And basically Layla was a very successful recruitment consultant, but it seems that she has hit a hard place in her life and she has lost her job, so she has to go back home, and her father actually like lets her have the office space above their family owned Indian restaurant so that she can like rebuild her business and restart her career and things like that. So she's kind of like taking that space as her own. But what happens is that her father actually sets up like an online dating profile for her, and she doesn't know this obviously, and he actually sets up on like a series of blind dates that she doesn't know about until like the first one comes knocking on her door, and that just so happens to be Sam, who is starting up his like business. He's in search of an office space, and he finds this office space above the same Indian restaurant that I was just talking about. So now Layla and Sam actually have to sit in the same office space and use it, and it's about them like bickering back and forth. And I feel like that this one is going to be a great novel to read, especially during the summertime, and it's so beautiful, and I highly recommend you guys to go check it out if you're interested in the synopsis. So the next book that I have to show you is actually a book that St. Martin's Press was very kind enough to send me, and this book is called The Girls at 17 Swan Street by Yara Zaheb. I don't really know how to say her last name, so I'm sorry about that, but check it out here right now. So this book is actually has full of trigger warnings for people who don't like to read about anorexia and bulimia, because we follow a character who is a professional ballet dancer, if I am correct, or she is just a professional dancer, and she is like trying to control her weight so that she can fit the part of her roles, and she soon starts to take out foods in her food groups and start eliminating different kinds of foods, into the point where people are starting to realize that something's wrong with her, so they kind of admit her into this house on 17 Swan Street. And so like this is the story of them kind of like learning about each other's backgrounds and learning about each other so that they can overcome their eating disorders and things like that. I think that this one is going to be a very emotional journey, and it's going to definitely like put me in the mindset of like how someone could end up with an eating disorder and someone who might not even know that they have an eating disorder. So I think it'll be very interesting. So this book is already released, so definitely go check it out if you're interested. So seeing that I already talked about one book that a publisher already gave me, I'm going to talk about the next 3 books that some publishers gave me too as well. So the first book that I want to talk about is actually called The Boyfriend Project by Farah Roshan, and this was sent to me by Forever Romance. And now this book follows a girl named Samaya, and Samaya is like kind of like a tech genius. So she is like a woman of color, and she's also like in the tech industry, which is like so hard already if you are a woman, and she has to be a woman of color. So it's very something that's like very impressive, and I was really excited to read this book. So I actually read this book already, but basically Samaya is going on like a date, or she had a date that was like turning into shit, and then there was like a live tweet that went viral, and then these 2 other girls show up on the date, and the 2 other girls claim that they've been dating the same guy that she's on a date with, and then now all 3 girls kind of bond over like this like horrific accident or this horrific incident where they're dating the same guy. But anyway, so Samaya is going to go on a life with no boys, and she's just going to focus on developing her app until Daniel Collins shows up to work, and she is like immediately attracted to him, and they have like this friendship going on, and then that's where her plans of no boys allowed is kind of going in a down spiral, and Daniel himself has his own secrets of to like why he's there and why he's so secretive about his background and why he's not talking about his past. So the next book that I have to show you here right now is called The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Mongunther, and now this book was sent to me by Sourcebooks. This book takes place in a place that there's always constant snow, and that's like where a lot of tourism happens. So Graham owns a diner called The Tourist Trap, and he named it as a joke, but then people like started really digging the diner, and everybody starts showing up there, and now he's suddenly stuck in this job where he's constantly dealing with tourists and also like dealing with their dogs for like the reindeer dog sleighs that he does. So he is like not happy. He's kind of like a grumpy man, but then he keeps noticing the new tourist in town called Zoe, and Zoe is very cute, and she is going to the mountains to go find herself or to like find something in her life, and they spark up a relationship. So I think that this book is going to be very cute. I've seen some reviews of this on Instagram already, and a lot of people really enjoyed it, so I'm excited. So the next book that I have to show you is also another book that was sent to me from Source Books, and it's called Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert. And now this is like a male gay romance, and this follows a character named Conrad and Alden. And from the synopsis, it sounds like that these two characters are very similar to each other. Like they seem like that they have their lives put together, they seem perfect, they seem very happy, but in reality that they're not actually happy, and like there's stuff that's going on that's wrong. And basically they both hate each other. It's an enemies to lovers romance, and they are mortal enemies, and they are stuck at a fan convention together, and that's where a connection starts growing. And then that's when they start realizing that they might have something magical between them. So I think that this book is going to sound very cute. So the next book that I picked up for myself is The Ingredients of You and Me by Nina Bocci. And now this book is actually the third book in the series that I don't know what's called, but the first book is called Meet Me on Love Lane, and then the second book is called On the Corner of Love and Hate. So I read the book On the Corner of Love and Hate, and I absolutely adored it. I love Nina's writing, so I bought the first one, didn't read it yet, but the third one came out in April, so I decided to pre-order it, and this is it. And it looks so pretty, it looks so cute, and I really hope like people like will read more into the series because it's just so precious to me. So this book follows a character named Parker, and Parker sold her very successful bakery business in New York, and she goes back into the small town in Hope Lake, Pennsylvania, and that's where she's kind of like regrouping, trying to figure out her next steps. And then that's when she also sees her like flame from like a long time ago called Nick, and then now Nick and Parker kind of have this like second chance romance, or like this enemies to lovers romance, because like they left on bad terms, but also like Parker is trying to stay away from Nick because Parker starts feeling emotions for Nick again, and Nick is actually a recently taken man, so he's off the market. So it just sounds like it's going to be a big mess, but I'm here for it. So the next book that I purchased for myself is called A Taste of Sage by Yafa Santos. And now this book follows a character from the Dominican Republic. And this book also has like magical realism in it, because our main female character, Lumi, actually has a special gift. And her gift is that she can taste the emotions of the person who created the dish in front of her. So she can like feel what the chef feels when they were making this dish. And she is a very professional chef. Like she's really good at her job. And when her venture fails, like her own business fails, she decides to work under Julian, who is this like chef that is known for his acidic tongue. So someone like Gordon Ramsay, who's just kind of like flying off the walls and being really angry, but also very brilliant at his job, and deep down a really good person, because Gordon Ramsay. Basically Julian and Lumi's like enemies to lovers romance, and I'm excited to read this book. But I also saw like a review from Chelsea Dolling from Chelsea Dolling Reads saying that she thought that this book was really weird, and she heard it, like she read it through an audiobook. So now I'm kind of nervous. I mean, like I had an arc of this, and I started like the first like 3 pages, and I didn't really like it, and I put it down for a bit. So hopefully now that I have the physical copy, I can convince myself to give it another shot. So the next book that I bought for myself was from Book Depository. So that's why like my cover is the UK version, because UK versions are different. And I like this cover. I thought it was decent, right? And the reason why I bought the UK edition was because that the UK editions are usually very cheap, and it's cheaper than the American versions. So this was only like $11. But then I was thinking that Evermore by Sarah Holland didn't come out in paperback yet, so that's why I had to go through Book Depository. But then today when I went to the bookstore, I already saw that they had a paperback version, and that paperback version was matching the first book in the series called Everless. And I was like, why did I buy the UK version so that now my 2 books in the same series don't have matching covers? But we're gonna get over it, because that paperback version was also like pretty cheap too, but we're gonna get over it and we're gonna get past it. But basically This is a YA fantasy novel. I read Everless way back when it first came out, like maybe 2 years ago. I really enjoyed Everless. It's a book about like how blood is your currency and how it's like gives you time in life, and like it's like this dystopian world, and it's like different, like it has like this magic system that's like completely different from all these like YA fantasies that I see. And so I was very intrigued about it. So that's why I requested an arc of Everless, and I read it. I really loved it. And Evermore unfortunately didn't have an arc of it, so I just never finished the series and I just never read Evermore, but I'm willing to correct it because I really enjoyed Everless and I just want to see how this book ends. Sarah Holland actually wrote another book recently that was published called Havenfall that I'm excited to read as well. I have an arc of that, so let's just see if I enjoy this. So the next book that I purchased for myself is What Happens Now by Sophie Money Coates, and this is an UK author that I have a lot of books of on my shelves that I'm very excited. She writes like women's fiction slash chick lit, and I love UK chick lit because it just feels different. It feels different, and if you read it like me, then you would know. But basically this book follows a girl named Lil, and Lil has just been dumped by her boyfriend, and she is like, you know what, I'm gonna put on a bra and I'm gonna get over it and I'm gonna have a one night stand. And she decides to have a one night stand with this like really gruff like mountaineer guy that like loves the outdoors, and then she thinks that like, you know, one night stand is fine, but then he ends up ghosting her, and then she also ends up finding out that she's pregnant. And then now she's like, okay, I'm ready to be a single mom, but I should probably also track down the father of the baby and just to let him know out of common courtesy. And then that's when she realizes that maybe the guy that she slept with is not ghosting her and is actually climbing on the mountain of South Asia with no cell phone reception, and that he is actually the son of the lord and the lady in the UK, and that he's actually part of like the royal family. And then that's like where things kind of unravel and things kind of get crazy, and I'm so excited to read this book. So the next book that I have to show you is The First Time I Saw You by Emma Cooper, and now this book looks stunning. It looks so pretty. I love it so much. And now this book follows two characters named Sophie and Samuel, and they are complete opposites attract. Sophie is very like closed off, and she doesn't want to talk about her emotions. She doesn't want to talk about what's on her mind. And then she basically is okay with like living with herself. And Samuel is different on the other hand because he's an open book. He tells everybody what's on his mind. He tells everybody his emotions and what's bothering him. And when Sophie and Samuel meet, Samuel is convinced that he can help Sophie enter into like the world and to be more confident in herself and to like actually just like speak up when she needs to. So I'm excited to read this really beautiful book and to like see if the story matches the cover in terms of beauty and in terms of how good it is. So the next book that I want to show you is actually a birthday gift that was sent to me from Bree Lauren from In Love with Other Words, or In Love with Words. I always forget her username, so I'm so sorry, Bree. But she was very, very sweet. We're both June babies, so we were both born in June, and she decided to send me a gift. And it's The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver, and she was so nice, and she sent me like a bunch of things. So she sent me a card, she sent me some stickers that she created herself. So these are the stickers that she created, and they're like romance stickers. I love it so much. And a card right here. And then she also told me that she sewed this like book sleeve herself, and I'm shook that she actually sent me a book sleeve. I'm not sure if it's reversible, but I'm going to try and make it reversible anyways. So it's like two different designs. Like the first side was lace, as you can see, and now it's like this pretty pattern. And honestly, she's so sweet for sending me this book. I read this book already and I freaking adored it and I loved it so much. I love the cover. And when she asked me like, well, what are the books on your wish list? And I went, I don't have a wish list. She was like, what the freak? And I was like, yeah, I know, but I like this book and I like the cover of it. And so she sent me a book and I'm so touched and amazed by it and I love her so much. So the next stack of books that I want to show you is actually from Chapters Indigo. They have like a sale going on right now where it's 5 for $25 for certain select books. And I had some books sitting in my cart for a very long time and I was wondering to myself, like, should I buy them? And then I didn't see anything else that I liked during that like that deal, and then they added new titles, so I got really excited. So I decided to add a few books to my cart and hit checkout. It wasn't that bad. I mean, 5 for $25, that's $5 a book. So the first book that I have to show you right now is actually a thriller, and if you guys are not new here, or if you guys are new here, I'm a romance reader that recently tried thriller novels and recently found out that she loves thrillers. So yay, I love thrillers. I don't know why I was talking in third person, but this book is called Where the Missing Go by Emma Rowley, and the synopsis of this book sounds very creepy, and that's why I decided to go forth and buy it. Normally I don't buy thriller novels. I prefer my thrillers in audiobooks, but this book is about a girl named Kate, and Kate is actually a mother of a girl named Sophie, and Sophie is actually a girl that actually disappeared many years ago, and Kate is dealing with grief because like the police are investigating it, but they can't find like whatever happened to Sophie. So she decides to fill the void by volunteering at a place called Messages in a Bottle, which is like a helpline center for people who are running away from their families. And one day she receives a call, and that call sounds like, even though that call is filled with static and with a lot of noise and movement, she is 100% sure that that call is actually Sophie, and Sophie was actually calling her. So now she's on this like grand adventure and investigation to figure out like whatever happened to Sophie and to like hunt down Sophie. So as soon as I read the synopsis of like her picking up the phone and listening to the voice and knowing that it was her daughter, I was like, add to cart right there. So the next book that I picked up is an Anthony Horowitz book called Forever and a Day, and this is actually like a James Bond novel. So if you guys don't know Anthony actually wrote this series called the Alex Rider series, and that was basically my high school childhood, where I would constantly binge the entire series. It's like Alex Rider is like a teen spy, like he's a teen British spy, and like every book was an adventure, every book was perfection, and I just fell in love with Anthony's writing. So Anthony turned towards, instead of writing like YA books, he actually went on to write adult fiction novels, and he wrote a couple ones that were loosely based on Sherlock Holmes, and also like other like stories where detectives and investigators, and he even inserted himself into one of his novels that he written, and I enjoyed it. So I decided to pick up his novel that is kind of like loosely based on James Bond, or it's just based on James Bond and it's him and telling a story with James Bond as the character. And this is the story of him like becoming James Bond, and I'm excited. So the next book that I have to show you is called Dreamy and Chocolate by Susan Bishop Criswell, and now this book is a second chance romance, and it's about a girl named Penelope, and Penelope owns a cafe that it serves a lot of hot chocolate, and that's their specialty. And she actually like came back into the town that she grew up in because she was pregnant, and she decided to hide the fact that she was pregnant from the father of the baby, so like from her partner. And then so she decides to raise the child up, and the child is named Ella, and Ella decides to one day ask her mother for her to reconnect her with her father, and to like, so that Ella knows who her father is. And then Noah, who is the father, actually comes back into town, and then now it's like this whole mess where Penelope actually has to tell Noah that, you know, this entire time Penelope was hiding a secret, and the secret was Ella. So I think that this one's going to be very emotional and very dramatic, and I'm gonna love it. So the next book that I have to show you is a book that's like, the title is covered by the sticker, but the book is called She'll Take It by Mary Carter. And now this book was very interesting to me because this book followed a girl that loves shoplifting, and she takes things like whatever she like wants and feels like, and her number one rule is to like not get caught, obviously, but also to like not be attached to people. And then like suddenly her whole world is like thrown upside down when she meets a man that kind of just makes her want to stop shoplifting. And I think that this book is going to be very fun to like read about a character who's clearly breaking the law. It just seems like it's going to be such a fun and quirky novel to read. So the last book that I have to show you guys is To Have and to Hold by Betsy St. Amant, Becky Wade, and Katie Garnshart. And now this book is like a compilation of 3 short stories, and it's called The 3 Autumn Love Stories, that I guess center around autumn and also weddings, because all these characters have something to do with like weddings. And I saw this a very long time ago on like Book Outlet. book outlet. But I saw this book a long time ago and I was always intrigued by it, but I was always like, you're not gonna read it, so don't buy it. But then I saw it again and I was like, you know what, just add to cart. So I'm excited to read these 3 short stories. I think it's going to be really cute. It's going to be easy to fly through. But anyways, that is it for part 2 of my book haul and all the books that I purchased for myself in the month of like May and June, and also for my birthday. Thank you to everyone who has given me gifts. I know that there are some books that are still coming along the way from my close friends, and I'm very excited to read all these books. But as always, I am leaving the links down below for Black Lives Matter. If you guys do have some money to spare, or if you guys want to make a donation, definitely check out the links down below, because it is going towards something that is very important and very pressing right now happening in the world, and it's always great to be taking active parts in things that matter. And anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, but until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.